Hi, my name is Tejas from Sparky Football India. Thanks for joining me today for the game giving opportunity. So the way we're going to play this game is to begin by splitting your players into smaller groups of 4 or 5 people. Then ask each group to go and find their own space. Their task is to create a brand new game in 3 to 5 minutes. They can use no equipment or whatever is available as long as the game is not a traditional sport. Then play the game for few minutes in smaller groups. After maybe a minute, one person from each group finds a new group and the group teaches the new person the game. Continue rotating so different people are leaving their group and joining new groups. After rotating 3 or 4 times, stop to ask some questions such as what happens when someone new enters your space or community? How did you decide what to do when they arrived? How did you treat them? What did you decide to play? How did you decide that? Why might some people be afraid to join a new activity or try something new for themselves? Does this game demonstrate something important you would or would not like to see in your community? So these are some of the questions, and you can ask some more which you feel is appropriate. Another progression is to have the player that moves group teaches the game rather than learning from the group. Or the players can come up with something new together to represent something they would like to see in their wider community. You could play again but ask the groups to come up with new games. Key participant learning from the game include how to include others in play and movement, creating new movement activities, and integrating people from different backgrounds.
Hi, my name is Adam Burgess from the Coaches Across Continents Innovate team. I hope you enjoyed that fun game from Tejas. We certainly did. Now I am delighted to be joined by Tejas from Sparky Football, who's going to give you a little bit of information about himself and the organization.
Right, thanks, Adam. My name is Tejas, and we are part of Sparky Football, based out of Bangalore in India. So the objective of Sparky Football is just use the power of football or any sport to engage, educate, and empower children or any youths based on the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals.
Tejas has successfully adapted his program activities to benefit children with disabilities such as autism and various other challenges that young people face. So I'd love to get his perspective on working with these groups. Tejas, how do you recommend other coaches or organizations start adapting their programs for those groups and their individual needs?
First thing is to just observe. And I think that's the first way to see where, as we observe, I think we tend to learn the strengths of the person, what it is, and how then channelize this into a medium of creating a plan on how different elements we can involve into the sessions. So either that way you can empathize on the person and work on your own strengths to see how we can get this alignment to work with the people. And so some of the techniques as a coach is how to pick up this cues from these kids, like the visual cues or auditory cues or tactile cues, what they are doing, the best way is to observe and pick up these cues where you can really understand, okay, what is he doing? Okay, when you say this, how is he responding to it? So always constantly being aware of these cues and making a record of these things every session, so you can eventually master this idea of, okay, what works and what would not for this person. Of course, it's subjective. So that's the best way to see that for each kid. If you pick up these cues, you can create a plan. So once you create a plan, then you can create a sub plan or a backup plan, which could work, which could not work. If these things can be one of the best ways to like start exploring. And so then somewhere you can really start finding this confidence. Okay, so this has happened. So okay, so then you kind of have this relationship going on with this person one on one, where they sense your energy is just sometimes you don't even have to do anything. Just looking at you, they're just so excited and you just want to run. They just want to clap. They just want to jump.
One interesting thing for me is that I don't think necessarily sport always in itself always leads to increased confidence. I think quite often it can actually have the opposite effect on young people, just because of the culture of competition that sport and physical activity promotes. Often they're trying to win the game, or you have to try and run the fastest, and as a result, some people are very good and some people are not so good, and children experience losing, and so I think that experience for some children can have a really negative effect on their confidence, both in sport and in their everyday life, because they can see that maybe their friend is so much better than them at sport. And so I think as a coach, we have to be really careful about the environment that we put children in when it comes to competition or when it comes to playing, because if it's done incorrectly, like I said, it can have a negative effect on their confidence and turn them off play or physical activity for a long time.
If there are two teams, or if you had to create two teams to play a sport, not necessarily you're intending to make it as a competitive, but just to organize a game, right? So you need two football captains here. So how do you choose, or even if you don't want to choose, the kids will want to be a captain. Not just two kids, but you'll have the whole 20 or 25 kids wanting to be captain. How do you work it out? Can you make it a very straightforward and pointing out choice where you're going to be or you're going to be? Then the question arises, why not me? So I used to see this, and at some point of time, so I adapted this learning of football democracy. They have to vote for the players where they feel that they look up to these guys in different traits or parameters. Where in everyday life, if for example, I see the kid voting for the player A, that then they have to justify their vote. Why would they vote for this person? So some of the things which I started to notice was, so initially they're pretty hesitant because they would have to think, and now since they're thinking, now they have to not think for themselves. They have to think, what am I learning from these people? Because that kind of breaks down their thinking of not just for themselves, but they have to think for themselves from someone else. So this was pretty interesting to see. Okay, now they're actually constantly observing each other, looking out for a positive takeout from each person. Where, okay, so I see this person where this guy is playing so well, or this guy is helping me to drink water, or if this guy, when I fell down, he got me up and able to like fix my hurt, or so they have their own small learnings from each other, which is a positive things. Where the new incentive to achieve a goal was finding out these good traits from each other. So that eventually was a justification for the oats which they were producing for each other. So the number of oats, the maximum number of oats whoever used to get was getting to be the captain. And I was never voting, and I was just creating this forum for each other where they were discovering their own strengths within each other, finding their own role models for each other, giving appreciation. So you could see, I vote for this guy because he did this for me. Suddenly you could see a smile on the other kid, like, oh, okay, I didn't even know, but someone is noticing what I'm doing. And other guy, they are like, hey, thanks, man. So you see that they have their own bonding and communication, and they sense that, okay, the positive reinforcement happening so strongly here, right?
Yeah, that's a fantastic practical idea for any coach or organization watching this. I think I would love to see anyone watching it to replicate or adapt it to their own community and their own kids. I love the way that can have a positive effect on confidence, right? And I think the way that it's focused on, it's the personal touches and the personal development and the helped me when I was injured, and not the he's the one who scores the goals, so I'm voting for him. It's not based on the performance, it's based on that personal. Thanks very much to Tejas for that interview. It was really insightful. I hope everyone took some really great information from it. And we'll be moving on to the next activity. So thanks, Tejas. Thanks, everyone, for watching.
Thanks, Adam, and special thanks to coaches across continents as well, because they are able to bridge this gap of learning from one community to different part